Every single Championship club has different individual targets going into the next season. So we're going to be going through every single Championship club's expectations going into next season. Of course, some just want to stay up in the Championship. That is the main goal. Others are expecting to literally walk the league and completely win it. Others are just expecting a mid-table finish. We're going to be going through every single Championship club and talking about them individually, how I think they're going to get on next season in terms of their expectations. If you're a fan of Championship content, please do hit subscribe on this channel. It takes 1 second. It would be very greatly appreciated. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so if you're a fan of Championship content, this is the place to be. Please do help me out and hit that subscribe button. If you could all hit it, it'll be very greatly appreciated. And also drop a like as well if you do go on to enjoy the video. So we have got 5 different categories. We've got automatic promotion. There is teams that are expecting to absolutely walk the league pretty much and expecting to be right up there. You can kind of guess those teams. We've got playoff expectations of them having playoffs. Then we've got playoff push. You'd imagine there's going to be a lot of teams around that kind of area all expecting to have at least a playoff push. There's always a lot of teams that are pushing for the playoffs in the Championship. Then we've got comfortable, basically, mid-table. You want to get to that 50-point mark as quick as you can and just survive and then kind of have like a mid-table comfortable season. And then we've got survive. Of course, everybody's aim in the Championship initially is just to survive, especially when you're looking at the teams that have come up from League One and the teams that are kind of mid-table in the Championship. Your number one goal is really get to that 50 points, make sure you survive, make sure you're safe, and then kind of push on from there. So we've got those other categories, and we'll start off with Norwich City, where it looks like they are going to be appointing Liam Manning as their manager, which, I mean, it's kind of come out of nowhere. I mean, there was murmurs a few weeks ago about Liam Manning potentially moving on from Bristol City. Maybe the ownership not showing the right expectation for what Liam Manning has for the side. Obviously, he's just got them playoff football. Well, just got them into the playoffs last season, and maybe he wants to push on. Really feels like he can strengthen that squad and have a really good go at the playoffs again. Maybe the Bristol City hierarchy don't exactly see the same way as Liam Manning does, and that could definitely be a reason as to why Liam Manning could be moving on to Norwich. He was also born in Norwich, I believe Liam Manning was as well. But it looks like kind of a sideways move, a backwards move if you look at the table. But I think Norwich, in terms of ambition, probably are a more ambitious club than Bristol City, I think it's fair to say. And they are a bigger club than Bristol City as well. So maybe Liam Manning's looking at it from that perspective and thinking that he has a better chance of getting a promotion or a playoff season again with Norwich over Bristol City, which, I mean, Liam Manning obviously knows his team best in terms of Bristol City, and he obviously, he's not going to go into this Norwich job expecting, he's going to go into this Norwich job, he's going to know that he's expecting to get finances, he's going to get backed getting this Norwich job, because there's no way he jump ship without knowing that he's going to get finances at Norwich. So we'll see what happens with the transfer window. But I think the fact, for me, that they're appointing Liam Manning, they're making that kind of appointment, makes me think that Norwich are going to be serious next season. So I do think a player push is valid. If they still, say they didn't appoint Liam Manning, or obviously it's not fully confirmed yet, but if there was no kind of conversation on who's getting appointed, maybe I'd just say comfortable, because it looks like they're going to lose Borja Sainz. They're probably going to lose Sargent. They're going to get a lot of money for those two players, so it all depends on how they replace them players. But I think with the appointment of Liam Manning, to me, that shows a real ambition from Norwich. So I'm going to put Norwich into a playoff push. Now, Sheffield United, would they expect automatic promotion? Now, obviously they lost the playoff final. I'm going to put them into playoffs as expectations with potentially maybe sneaking into automatics. You look at the other teams coming down, which we'll talk about a bit later in the video when we get to them. I think Sheffield United are going to be up against some real tough competition with those teams coming down. You've got to look at after that playoff final, they've got some real key players that I think could be on their way to be honest. I think Gus Hamer's just, he's too good for the Championship. He won Championship Player of the Year. I was quite vocal in saying that maybe there was better players in the division, but he's definitely right up there, probably top 3 right now in terms of the Championship players. I mean, he's an absolutely unbelievable player, and I think a Premier League club should definitely come in for Gus Hamer. Just, you notice the difference when he got substituted off and he went off injured in the playoff final. You really did notice the difference. I mean, you could kind of sense it with Sheffield United, the whole kind of energy switching when Gus Hamer got substituted. He's such an important player for them, and I just can't see him playing another season of Championship football. He's a guy that really does deserve Premier League football. The way that he is on the football pitch, he's just an absolute joke. So for me, if they lose him, it's a big loss. They might lose Michael Cooper in goal. He might go to a Premier League team. The rest of the squad, maybe Vinny Sousa they could lose, but the rest of the squad I would kind of expect to kind of stay the same in terms of the players that they've actually got. Obviously, they've got loan players as well. They're gonna strengthen, there's no doubt. They've obviously still got parachute payments as well. So they're going to strengthen, and I expect them to be up there again next season. But obviously, they're going to lose some key players, in my opinion, especially Gus Hamer. But I still do think Sheffield United should have expectations of at least getting the players at a bare minimum, in my opinion. Now, Oxford, I think for me, Oxford, obviously a lot depends on the transfer window, which hasn't taken place yet. I think Oxford, just to survive again, is good enough for them. I think they probably want to get a mid-table finish ideally, but I think they'll be very happy with just surviving again in the Championship. Obviously, getting promoted this season, last season, however you put it, staying up that season, and staying up pretty comfortably, you'd say. In the end, they stayed up with, they were out of the relegation zone, out of the relegation battle with a game to go. A lot of teams were in there with one game to go. So they were relatively comfortable. They were always they always had that kind of buffer since they got out of it with Gary Rowett. They always had that buffer once they got it, and they were never really too dragged in. There was definitely times where they were definitely looking over their shoulder, but they were never completely safe. But as I say, they weren't close enough to really get relegated at many points in the season, where once Gary Rowett took over. So again, I just think staying up for Oxford would be good enough for them in my personal opinion, because I think a lot of people will be predicting Oxford to be right down there when you look at how competitive this Championship season is going to be this season. Right, Blackburn Rovers. I'm gonna put comfortable. I think they'll probably take a mid-table finish. I've said about Valérien Ismaël. I think he was an interesting appointment. Obviously, it was awful at the start. He turned it around. It's just all depends on how Blackburn start next season. To be honest, I think if they start the season poorly, Ismaël will be under severe pressure very early. So we'll see how he gets on. For me, I think Blackburn comfortable season, potentially going into that playoff push, kind of in between that. I'd say Blackburn, but I think comfortable they probably have as their minimum expectations. For me, Watford, honestly, right now for expectation, I think it's just survive. Obviously, the Pozzos, their expectations are going to be playoffs or something. You know how the Pozzos are with their unrealistic expectations. But in terms of expectations for Watford, like, I don't know if the fans are really obviously they're not happy at all with the Tom Cleverley situation. Maybe I should put comfortable. I think I'll put them to comfortable. They shouldn't really get relegated. Their squad's decent enough to stay up. But, I think I'm going to put survive. I think things could go very wrong for Watford. If they start the season poorly with the new manager, fans will be turning very quickly and it could turn toxic. So I'm going to put survive. I think that's probably fair with Watford, just given the situation with getting rid of the manager and the whole situation with the Pozzos. It's not ideal. It's not ideal, is it, for Watford in that kind of situation right there. Stoke City, is it survive again? I'm going to put comfortable for Stoke. I feel like it's harsh. You've got Mark Robbins in charge. You've got a good manager. There is good players in that Stoke team. It's just, Stoke just never perform, isn't it? That's just the way it is for Stoke. Maybe I'm being kind putting them in comfortable, but I feel like they should at least expect a comfortable season, at least not being the kind of mess that they were in this last season with the multiple managers they had. Obviously, Mark Robbins kept them up in the end. I think probably comfortable is where Stoke would want to be, at least be comfortable. You don't want to be in another relegation battle like you were last season. Right, Charlton Athletic, quite a simple one, probably the most simple one of them all. Their mission is to survive. You're a League One club that's just been promoted through the playoffs as well. The playoff games that they played, they obviously got the results, they did well. They didn't even concede a goal, did they, in the playoffs, which is unbelievable to be fair to them. But diabolical watch, painful watch, boring watch. But maybe it's the teams that they also played against as well that didn't exactly help them out, especially in Wycombe, in the way that Wycombe played in them playoff semi-finals. But Charlton, I think the sole aim of a club that's got promoted from League One is just to survive. When you've got the finances of Charlton, we'll talk about obviously the finances of Birmingham and Wrexham in a bit. But the sole aim for Charlton has just got to be to survive, simple as, the next season. Ipswich Town, it's got to be automatic promotion. They are going to lose players. They're going to lose Liam Delap most likely. Kayustei's not going to be with them as well. So they're two key players that they're not going to have with them next season. But that squad's absolutely good. And if you look at them, it's like a championship all-star team with the players that they signed this season. You've got such a strong group of players which haven't really performed in the Premier League, but it's so difficult. It's such a big gap between the Championship and the Premier League. I really do think in the Championship they should absolutely cook, realistically, because the gap between the two divisions is crazy. These players that didn't look good enough for the Premier League will then probably look too good for the Championship, let's be real. So I think Ipswich should be fine for automatic promotion. I think they're the team that has the highest expectations of them out of anybody in the Championship season. When you look at Leicester with the potential points deduction, Southampton have high expectations as well. I think Ipswich are the ones that everyone's thinking are going to be they're going to be number one this season. That's what everybody thinks. Sheffield Wednesday, obviously a lot of it depends on the Danny Rose situation, but I'm just going to go survive again. I just think as a Sheffield Wednesday fan, if Danny Rose leaves, you've got obviously the situation with Chansiri still as your owner. I just think taking survival at this point and just surviving is probably what you'd want as obviously like the bare minimum. You'd obviously want to be comfortable. You'd love to be pushing playoffs, but I think it's just a sole purpose this season, the situation. Obviously, if Danny Rose goes, it's just got to be to survive. I think a lot of people will be predicting Sheffield Wednesday to be right bang in trouble if Danny Rose leaves. So I think just right there, it's got to be to survive. Now, QPR, honestly, as a QPR fan, I'm feeling just towards just stay up. Do you know what I mean? Just get over the line, because the situation that we're in, we've got a lot of players out of contract. Jimmy Dunn's probably going to be leaving. He's our best player. The situation with Martin Cifuentes, like, he's been on gardening leave for like over a month or something now. What is going on? Make a decision. Do we want the guy? In my opinion, we can't go back from this. There's no. I just don't think Marty can come back from the situation that's happened. You know, he spoke to West Brom, and you know his head's elsewhere. His head's not 100% in QPR. And do you really want a manager where you have to question if his head's even in it or not? The answer's no. So for me, I think he's kind of, what is it? He's laid his bed and he needs to lie in it. I think that's a saying, and I think that's what he probably needs to do, and I think that's what the board needs to do, and maybe just, you know, get rid and just accept that he's probably not the right man for us going forward, which is a shame because he's done a great job for us. And obviously it's going to be a lot up in the air with QPR, and right now I'm looking at it and thinking this division's going to be so strong this season. There's so many teams, so you look at the teams coming up, there's going to be some big teams going down this season. And like, I'm looking at it right now as a QPR fan and thinking, I will take survival right now, and then just build on that. We'll see. Hull City is another team that probably have ridiculous expectations from the owner, given the fact that the owner just loves to sack people for fun, sacking Rossignol, sacking Ruben Sellers, both undeserved in my opinion. That the expectation for Hull, if you're the Hull board, you're saying playoff push. That's the way that they're thinking. But I think if you're a Hull fan, it's a situation of they have to start the season well, otherwise they're going to get frustrations turn towards the ownership very, very quickly. So it's survive again. And I'm going to put a lot of teams in this survive category, by the way, but you look at it this season, there was so many teams from probably 15th downwards at points in the season in the Championship where you think they would have all just taken survival, because the division's going to be so close, and it's going to be so close again, where you're going to have multiple teams sat within 6 points of each other towards the end of the season. There's not going to be many points in it between what I'm putting these clubs in comfortable, these clubs in survive. I think there's not going to be any points. There's not going to be many points between all of them, in my opinion. Obviously, you might get one or two that might surprise us, but I think there's a lot of teams that just have the aim just to quite simply just survive and then push on from there. Try and get to that 50-point mark as quick as possible. And another team that goes into that category is Preston. I think they're making a couple of signings. They seem to be doing a bit, Preston do, to be fair. Obviously, they're losing players as well. Heckingbottom struggled overall. Obviously, at the back end of the season especially, Preston just stumbling towards safety. Again, it's got to be to survive. Maybe comfortable, you can maybe argue for a few of these teams, I'll say, but the number one purpose of Preston, if you're looking at it probably from a Preston fan, it's probably similar to a lot of other teams where you think you'd be quite happy just surviving in this tough Championship season this season. Now, Wrexham, it's tough with Wrexham because obviously they're going to be making a lot of transfers. You've already seen Tom Kearney linked. I've seen Aaron Creswell. I've seen Danny Ings. I've seen everybody, to be fair. I've seen Vardy. You see everyone linked to Wrexham. Is it crazy just to put them in comfortable? Or is it that I do think Wrexham will just be like, we need to just survive as a starter. They'll just take survival realistically, because there's no way they can do another promotion back to back. Is that right? I don't even know. We'll go from the National League to the Premier League. There's no way. There's no way. You look at the teams that have come down from the Premier League, and you look at the gap. These teams, it's a complete different level. That they can maybe push players if they make a lot of signings, but the squad's just not. It's so far off. You've got to make a lot of signings to really get a playoff push, like a lot of signings, which they might very well do. I'm gonna go comfortable. Just given the fact that I expect them to sign a lot of players. That's my reasoning behind that one. But right now, I mean, if you look at their squad right now, it'd just be survive, because their squad's not Championship level right now. But I expect them to make a lot of signings. West Brom. We're going to go playoff push for West Brom. Obviously, kind of fell away last season with Tony Mowbray in charge. Didn't really work out at all. I expect West Brom to be up there. They're always in and around it, West Brom. Even though they were terrible last season, this season, however you want to put it, they weren't good enough, but they were still in the picture. They were still in the playoff push. But they never really looked like getting it, especially with Tony Mowbray in charge. But I think West Brom will regroup and they'll have a playoff push this season, in my opinion. I think that's got to be the fans' expectations. They're a big club in the Championship, West Brom. They've got to be pushing playoffs. They've got to be. Swansea City, I actually think the expectations for them is playoff push. I genuinely think that. I think the way they finished at the end of the season, so positive. They've got a lot of stuff going. They're already making signings as well. Like things are looking quite good for Swansea City, I'd say. And I'd say there's a very good positive vibe around Swansea. Luka Modric coming in as a part owner as well. Swansea fans have a lot to be positive about, so I think there's no reason for them to have expectations as anything lower than a playoff push, in my personal opinion. Portsmouth, we're going to go comfortable for Portsmouth. I think the expectations there, I think I look at it and I think Portsmouth are in a better situation than Oxford, Watford, Charlton, Sheffield Wednesday, QPR, just because they're QPR with the Sheffield Wednesday with the manager situations, Hull City with the manager situation as well, and Preston as well struggling. I think Portsmouth are in a better position. They got goals on their side. You'd expect Colby Bishop to still be around. You expect Murphy to still be around as well. I think he's not too old, but I think like obviously if Murphy was like early 20s, mid 20s, maybe people would be really looking at him as a signing. But I think maybe he's past that in terms of a signing. Maybe I'm waffling, I don't know. But I think Portsmouth will be absolutely fine. They've got goals on the side. They're going to need to replace some of the players that have come back from loan. Obviously, Freddie Potts was a real key player for Portsmouth last season, so they're going to have to replace in the middle of the park. But I think Portsmouth, they got a safe pair of hands under John Musinho. They did very well last season. If you look at their form since Colby Bishop came back from injury, they're a decent championship side. And you look at their home form as well, going to Fratton Park, it's not a good place to go to. I think Portsmouth will be absolutely fine and comfortable for Portsmouth. Would be my expectations for them if I was a Portsmouth fan. Derby County, I think again it's comfortable for them. I think just steering clear of a relegation battle, comfortable mid-table finish. I think that's pretty realistic with John Eustace, and the job that he's done obviously has been fantastic, from taking them over from 6-7 points behind, whatever they were, to turn it around and stay up. There's a positive energy around Derby, really positive energy around Derby, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. And I think with John Eustace, I mean, for me, he was the championship manager of the season. Based over the two jobs that he'd done in both the jobs at Blackburn and Derby, I think he should have got manager of the season, or maybe Regislebury, because he got Sunderland promoted. But then Sunderland also at the back end of the season struggled massively. So I think John Eustace did a fantastic job at both the teams he was at. Ridiculously exceeded expectations at both jobs. Derby pretty much thought they were down at one point, keeps them up out of nowhere, and then as well as obviously Blackburn expects to be down at the bottom, guides them to what they were in the playoffs before he left. Right, Millwall. It's got to be playoff push for Millwall. Obviously came very, very close this season. Solid at the back. They've got players that can improve as well. Bangor Williams is a player that I really like the look of. Obviously needs to get more game time and more kind of championship experience, but a player that's got the potential, in my opinion, looks like a real player. Ivanovic as well up top at the back end of the season was doing really well. And he could be a player that, could really kick on this season. And you're looking at a top-level championship striker, because the championship really is void of many good strikers. And Ivanovic is genuinely right up there already. But you feel like he can really kick on this season and become a top championship striker. So they got a potential really good striker in there. Millwall are always solid at the back. Alex Neil's a very good defensive coach and sets his team up very well. So I expect Millwall to have another player push. I think they'll be right in and around the playoffs, and they always seem to be around there as well. Very solid team, Millwall. I expect them to do very, very well again this season under the guidance of Alex Neil. I really rate as a coach. I've always rated Alex Neil since when he was at Norwich. Right, Southampton. Is it too much to say automatics? I feel like Southampton, I think you've got to say automatics. Maybe it's a little bit. Maybe I'm being a little bit kind in terms of staying out of expectation. Maybe I should put playoffs, but I think Southampton have got, player for player, despite the fact they have got 12 points. I know they've got 12 points, and I know they were absolutely diabolical in the Premier League, but player for player, they have some really talented players. Fernandes, if he stays, I don't know if he'll stay or not, but such a talented player. Tyler Diblin, things didn't really work out in the second half of the season, I'd say, but there's no doubt he's got ridiculous amounts of talent, and we'll see if he ends up going or not. But if he does go, Southampton get a really nice fee for him. They can reinvest. I think Tyler Diblin's an unbelievable talent. I can't wait to see how his career pans out. They've still got players like Taylor Harwood-Bellis as well. They've got a good core group of players, and you look at the players that are coming back from loan. Shea Charles was one of the top midfielders in the Championship at Sheffield Wednesday side, which is a pretty average Sheffield Wednesday side, let's be honest. So you've got a player coming back from loan there that's got a really good season of experience now in the Championship, is ready to kick on, in my opinion, to play for a top club at the Championship. Shea Charles is literally like a new signing to that side. And then you've also got Ronnie Edwards as well, who was on loan at my club QPR. Ridiculously good centre-back, can play at the absolute top of Championship level. We were so lucky to have him last season. I think it was a perfect move for Ronnie Edwards, championship experience, perfect move for Southampton. You've got a player now that's got half season of championship football, was our best player by far, and as I say, physicality, unbelievable, good in the air, strong, quick enough. He's quick enough at the back. He's not slow, and as well as that, his ball playing ability is his main kind of strength, and that's what Southampton want under Will Still. I think he's such an exciting appointment, and I really do think, despite the fact that Southampton got 12 points, I genuinely be so excited for this season going into it as a Southampton fan. You got some good young players coming through, and as well as that, you've got a new manager, a good young coach as well. So if I was a Southampton fan, I'd actually be buzzing. I wouldn't even care that I got 12 points, and you didn't break the record as well, so you're winning. Right, Middlesbrough. I'm gonna go player push Middlesbrough. I think that they've got the squad and they've got the players that really, in my opinion, should have got in the players. Look at Bristol City getting their players. Middlesbrough squad. I know defensively they're terrible, but like in terms of midfielders and like just overall squad, Middlesbrough should have been in the playoffs. Like they really should have been. We'll see what happens with kind of some of their top players, Hayden Hackney especially. I think Porto got interest again in him like they did in January. He's a player that they need to keep hold of. Unbelievable player. And Middlesbrough should have got players last season. I really, really do think that. Their squad was absolutely good enough, and it's just disappointing that Michael Carrick couldn't set that team up defensively and just couldn't crack it with the way that they were defensively. And as I say, I've spoken about it many times. In January, I really thought, when people say Middlesbrough had a good chance window, I said it on my TikTok, they haven't signed a defender. Defence has been their problem. They never signed it. They've got to address it. They've got to address it in the summer. And they've got to go for a player push at least, the minimum, in my opinion. Because Middlesbrough shouldn't be anywhere lower than a player push. They're too big of a club. They've got too much quality to be anywhere below a player push. Right, Coventry City. I think the expectation's got to be playoffs. I think it's got to be playoffs for them. They've got to kick on again. I said it with Frank Lampard in the playoffs, did it on my playoffs video. I said Lampard was very one-dimensional in the playoffs. I really do think it was a poor managerial display from Frank Lampard to be dominating a game like that. Sunderland let them dominate the game. All Coventry did was pump balls into the box. Cross it. They need something else in their game. You can get away with it against the lower championship teams because they're defensively just not at the level. They're obviously going to make mistakes. When you're up against a top team, you're not going to get that kind of opportunity. And what I'm saying with Coventry as well in the playoffs was they just put the ball into the box in, like they wouldn't work actual crossing opportunities. They did for their goals, but they were just crossed aimlessly too much. And there's something that Frank Lampard needs to work on himself. They've got a quality side there. They've got Grimes, who was a great signing in January. They've got Bobby Thomas at the back. They've got Radoni, obviously, as well. They've got some real quality. And up front, Haji Wright needs to improve on his finishing, which has been poor this season. Ellis Sims as well, same goes. But the foundations are there for Coventry, and I do absolutely expect them to be in and around the playoffs this season, in my personal opinion. Now, Bristol City, I would have said playoff push, guaranteed, but then you see Liam Manning going, question marks over the ambition. Will Jason Knight stay? We'll assume Jason Knight stays. We'll go playoff push for Bristol City, but I'm not very confident in Bristol City's playoff push as I was with when they, of course, had Liam Manning. But I'll put them in playoff push out of the kindness of my heart. Right, Birmingham City. I can't say playoff push is expectations, can I? Or can I? I don't know. I feel like Birmingham fans, the way they're talking is they're expecting a playoff push. I'm going to put them in that category. But I also think Birmingham will probably just take comfortable. I think if they just get mid-table, kind of show signs of promise in terms of how they play in the Championship, and promise that they can potentially make playoff push in the future, probably they would take that. But the way that they finished, obviously the way that they performed in League One, 111 points, maybe they're expecting a playoff push. Maybe I should put that down to comfortable, but we'll go playoff push. And there's of course a lot of teams in playoff push because in the Championship, there is always multiple, and I mean multiple teams, got their eyes on the playoffs and pushing for the playoffs. You look at even this season, you had teams from like 10th all the way to like 5th battling for playoffs. That was a lot of teams. So that's why these teams are on the playoff push, by the way. Right, Leicester. I'm going to go, it obviously all depends on the points deduction. I'm going to assume they get the points deduction because it looks likely. I'm still saying playoffs. If they get a 6-point deduction, I think they'll get playoffs. If they get a 12-point deduction, I still think they'll get playoffs. Because you look at how far Leeds and Burnley got into the playoffs. What was it like? Those who got automatic promotion, obviously, they got 100 points. And players Bristol City got 68 points, was it? Or was it 66 points? It might have been 66 points. I think it was 66 points. It might have been 67, but whatever it was. That was a big gap. And if Leicester get a 12-point deduction and they got 90 points, they'd still get 78 points. That would still be enough for playoffs. I still think Leicester should have expectations of the players, even if they get a 12-point deduction, which is getting talked about. Because they look terrible this season, but they still finish above Ipswich. They still finish on, double Southampton's points. And they've still got quality in that squad. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with kind of El Canoes. We know that Vardy's gone. There's a lot of question marks with the club, and we'll see kind of how they move in the transfer market and see if they actually bring anybody in or whatever the situation is. But there's no doubt, you can look as bad as you want in the Premier League, but you can still absolutely walk the Championship. You can still absolutely walk the Championship and look terrible in the Premier League. That's why, Southampton's got 12 points, and I'm saying the expectations are automatic promotion. And they were the worst team in Premier League history after Derby. So that's my kind of thoughts on everybody's team. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below of your expectations of your team. Obviously, you know your team's better than me speaking about 24 teams just from what I'm seeing on the outside. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel. If you're a Championship fan, please do hit subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. If you wouldn't mind helping me out, we do daily Championship videos. So if you wouldn't mind helping me out and hitting that subscribe button, it'd be very greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.